On the interviews Facebook page, there is a link to a nerd test. You can find it on facebook.com/interviewslive. And as I said, people have told me for many years that I'm a nerd, but I took this test and my result was not nerdy, but definitely not hip. And it said that 62% of the people who took the test were, I guess, nerdier than I was. But I felt like there was a science bias. So is that also like a mistake to think that kind of like if you're math science oriented that makes you a nerd? I mean, aren't there math science nerds?
Absolutely. First of all, there's nothing wrong with being average. But yeah. I mean, I did that test and it was extremely biased towards science and in particular the more mathematical sciences, science and physics and computing, maths, physics, computing, things like that. So yeah, there is this assumption that if you're a nerd, you're either going to be into physics, mathematics, computers, or science fiction, the whole fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, and absolutely that's part of the spectrum. But as JC said, he's a policy guy and is a big nerd about it. You ask him a few questions and give him a beer and he will wax lyrical about the state of Texas poverty.
And I got the same score you did.
Yeah. You were exactly not nerdy, but definitely not hip. But you, Dan, you were King Supreme Nerd.
I believe I was a nerd god. Thank you very much. In the top 5th percentile, which as I was doing it was ridiculous because there are a bunch of questions that I think a nerd should be able to get that I couldn't. So I don't know.
And you as well, Lewis. You came
I
up
was
as
a supreme nerd.
You were.
Only 8% of nerds are more nerdy than I.
But now you actually call
According to
me.
the test.
You actually call me a spelling nerd because I came in 4th place in the Austin Chronicle Adult Spelling Bee.
You can be a nerd about spelling. You don't have to be a nerd. You don't have to know how to program. You could not even like computers, but you can still be a nerd. You can be a spelling nerd. You can be an art nerd. You can be a sports nerd. If you just like something a lot. In my opinion,
I mean, spelling's a great example. There's no intrinsic value in being able to spell words that you never use.
I bet she disagrees with that.
I'm sure she would.
Hey, I got a really nice swag bag as a result. There was some value.
But knowing how to spell, xylophone backwards is fun and all, and I'm not mocking that ability. I think it's great, but there's no value in that in and of its own right, and I think that's possibly part of what being a nerd is that you do it for your own satisfaction and you're not doing it necessarily to further yourself in the world either financially or socially. It's just because you love it. It's a hobby.